Hello there and welcome to my YouTube channel, Julia McNeil Crafts. So today's the second Friday of the month, which means it's Dawn and Julia Create, which I love. We both have the exact same stash, the exact same brief, and it's amazing how we come up with completely different stuff. I love it. And Dawn is so talented, and I know she's going to rock this challenge because she is the photopolymer clay, whatever it's called, queen. Anyway, I noticed that both Dawn and I had picked up this. She did a haul where I saw this and I was like, oh, I've got that one too. So I knew Dawn had this in her stash, so that's the basis, that's the sort of main item. And then I sent her a few bits and pieces, mostly because when I bought this I had an idea in my head of what I wanted to do. So poor Dawn's been stuck with it too. We're enjoying challenging each other, it's great fun. So I've got three little sort of mini wood slices and a big wood slice. I have some little fence post things, a little wooden mushroom. To be honest, don't really know what I'm doing with that, but it seemed garden themed, so I shoved it in. Some kind of shredded paper straw sort of strange stuff, a bit of wire, and some random things like tin foil. And yes, I've raided the garden. I sent Donna a card saying, and in case you're wondering, yes, I have raided the kitchen and the garden. So we've got some sticks and acorns, some tin foil. My preferred clay is paper clay, so I'm working with paper clay because it's what I have in my stash, and Dawn will be working with polymer clay. We also have some gorgeous little wicker circle sphere things that are in reds and pinks, and I put mine in a safe place for this project and now can't find it. So I'm hoping I'll find them at some point in time before the project's finished, but these are the raw materials that we have to work with. So I'm just going to pause now and we'll get started with the first step. Okay, so I'm going to start getting my house ready. Now I love the shape of this house, I hate this bit. So I'm hoping I'm going to manage to be able to pull that off. Might save some of those bits, they might make quirky extras. So I'm going to try and prise this off. I'm just wondering whether my palette knife might have been an idea. I think this video is going to be a bit of a combination of real time and little fast forwarded bits, because there's a lot of stuff that's sort of process stuff, and once you've seen a little bit of it, yeah, hang on a sec. Okay, so I've been hacking away at this a bit off camera. In the end, I've kind of just gone for these sort of cutter things. Tell you, whatever glue they've put this on with, I highly recommend buying it. I'll have to ask them. Yeah, so I'm just kind of pulling those bits off because I don't really want it. Yeah, so there's kind of quite a lot of processy bits. I'm going to be doing bits with paper clay and building stuff up with the tin foil and stuff like that. And I'll do a little bit and explain what I'm doing, and then I'll put it on fast forward for two reasons. It'll be a bit repetitive, and also I don't want the video to end up being 5 hours long, and I think this project is one of those that it's going to take time. To be honest, I'm cutting it fine as always, and it is Tuesday and it's not due up till Friday, but considering I have drying times to consider, and considering that my daughter is on school holidays and I don't have the same sort of freedom during the day as I normally do, and that'll be the case for the next 6 weeks, that I am sort of cutting it fine. But it wouldn't be me if I wasn't, would it? So that's me kind of got the bulk of that off. Let's see if I can just, so yeah, recommend those pincer things seem to be the most effective. I might be able to scrape that off, to be honest, maybe a bit of sandpaper and stuff to get the edges, but what I'll do is I'll just completely remove that and then I'll come back with the tin foil. Okay, so I'm not going to get it much better than that, I don't think, unless I start getting a professional sander out. I have sanded it a little bit. Now I want to sort of create a, I don't know, you know, like these fairy houses have, this is going to be really crinkly in the, I'll tell you what I'll do, I'll explain what I'm doing. Fairy houses have, you know, these sort of like curvy shapes that's maybe meant to be, I don't know, some sort of plant or something. I'm wanting to create that, but I've just realised the noise of the tin foil in the microphone is going to be horrific. So I'll just pop you on fast forward whilst I do the tin foil part. Okay, so that's the tin foil stuck onto my house. Normally I would use either a hot glue gun, but I don't have it right now, it's in the shed, or a gel medium. But I've actually used a little bit of this super strong sticky tape and my Cosmic Shimmer glue. These both have pretty good adhesions, but again, just for speed, because I've, you know, not given myself a lot of time as normal. So I'm just going to put that aside to dry, and I'm going to work on the picket fence whilst I'm waiting for that to dry. Now I've just got my Delusions journal in front of me while I'm doing gessoing, because I find random bits of gesso on a page make quite a good journaling page. So I'm just going to use that as a drop sheet. So I think I want a sort of like, you know, the whole white picket fence, a distressed white picket fence. So I'm just going to cover this with gesso. I'm using my Indigo Blue Gesso Good gesso, and I'm just going to cover it with that, and then once that's dry I will sand it back a little bit, and I'm also about to start destroying stuff again. So I will put that there like so, and I'll just paint the back of it, because obviously with it being a 3D project that we are creating, you are going to see it from both sides most likely. So I just need to make sure that the back is working for us as well as the front. Okay. So it looks like I've put a whole load of stuff together. When I messaged Dawn and everything, I just kind of wanted to highlight that yes, I've got lots of little wooden bits and you might not have them in your stash, and if you don't, that's absolutely fine, because you just use what you have. I mean, obviously part of the supplies is kitchen roll and twigs, so most of us can normally manage to find that. There we go, pulling them off. But all the rest of these things, the little wooden blocks, the little picket fence that I'm destroying just now, the this stuff here, all of that, I got all of that from the works. So it was all cheap and cheerful. I think everything, all the little packages of things were about £1, so it was like £1 for a packet of 6 wooden fences, and again £1 for 6 of the little wooden bits and bobs. So I think all in all, including the house, which was also got from the works, it's worked out about £7 or something to buy all the bits and pieces together to make this, which is a 3D craft project, is not bad. Now, what I'm trying to do here is I want to, this idea came to me now. The only bit I'd actually had planned was sticking the tinfoil on the roof. The rest of it I have no idea what I'm doing, so I'll probably be kind of thinking, why did I give all this stuff to Dawn? Because now I have to use it too. I'm thinking that I could create a sort of like fence post, you know, like an Alice in Wonderland, where they're all a bit all over the place. So I'm just going to gradually pull this apart and then see what I can do about sticking that all down. Honestly, as soon as I went off camera, it suddenly was really easy to pull that thing apart, so I made it look far more difficult than I needed to. Now for this, I'm going to get my Pinflair glue, because it is really strong and it's really good for sticking any sort of surface to any sort of surface. So as I'm working with wood and, you know, an old twig, which is not going to be the easiest thing to adhere to anything, I'm sticking with the Pinflair, and I'm not planning on putting paper clay on this. So I don't have to have 2 lots of drying times, if that makes sense. This can dry away and be ready for me tomorrow. Whereas my little house, I kind of need it ready to put paper clay on it at some point today, so that I can start colouring everything up tomorrow. Okay, so a bit of Pinflair glue. I think I'm just going to go with 3 posts rather than 4, because odd numbers always looks better when it comes to design. So I am going to do that, I think. Maybe I'll put it a bit further down. Yeah, that's quite good. Okay, so got my Pinflair there. Yeah, so I've got kind of, this just sort of came to me now. It wasn't part of the plan, it was just as I was looking at the stuff I had. I thought, oh, And how I'm actually going to stick it to the project now, I don't know. But yeah, so I'm going to leave that to dry and then we can work with that tomorrow. I've got my little picket fence here. Find somewhere to put that when it's not got, there we go. And I'm just going to take some sandpaper and sand some of that gesso off to give it a bit of a distressed feel. And then we'll have our little white picket fence ready to go next to the little house, hopefully. So I'll do that. Then I think the next thing that I'll need to do is to start making some paper clay elements. So that's me prepped those things, and now yeah, I'll be back with some paper clay. Okay, so I've got some paper clay. Now in theory I know what I'm doing here. But I've not actually done it before, so we'll see how we go. What I'm planning on doing is just wrapping my paper clay around that tin foil. And then it means we can work with that a bit later. So I've gone for paper clay. I love my paper clay. For a long time it was mostly what I was doing, partly because my little girl, she's an only child, and she's an absolute delight. But even ever from being little right up until now, she is an absolute delight, as long as she's entertained 24/7. And I would try colouring with her and stuff like that, but she always ends up having to help me with my pictures, and yeah, crafting with her never went overly successfully. So quite often she loves her Play-Doh. So she would sit and play with her Play-Doh and I would play with this, and then she likes her paper clay as well, so quite often we would just sit and make shapes together and stuff like that. So I've done a lot of sort of free form fantasy flowers and things like that, because I could quite often just sit with her and we'd sit with some music on and play, you know. And actually that's one tip for you if you don't have a lot of tools for this, which actually I've got a few, but I don't have a huge amount because I love my paper clay, but it's not my main hobby. You know, I'm definitely prefer the cards and the mixed media and stuff like that. I love doing stuff like this. It's a bit different, but I'm never quite sure what to do with it once I've finished. So I'm not thinking about this overly, I'm literally just squishing it on. As I said, I've not done this before, but I know it's a technique that's out there, so I'm just trying to cover it so that we're not seeing the tin foil. And what I will do is I will add a little bit of texture to that in a minute, and then when we paint that all up it'll look great. So the thing I love about paper clay is it's paper. The end of the day, that's all it is. It's paper, but in a clay format. So once it dries, it is literally just paper, which means all the products and things that you use, that you're used to using in like maybe your card making and stuff like that, or your pens, or your distress inks, you know, pencils, anything, paints, watercolours, anything that you normally use, you will be able to use with this, because it's just paper. So if paper takes it, this stuff will too, and I love that. That is probably my favourite thing about it. Also, it's incredibly lightweight. Now, I know Dawn does a lot of polymer clay, but then Dawn makes quite a bit of jewellery as well. She's done some really... If you watch her videos, the ring that she wears, I have to say I'm quite envious of it every time I see her. Beautiful colour. Beautiful sort of pinky red colour. That's definitely my colours. And she made that herself. So Dawn is really quite into... she's done jewellery making and stuff like that. So polymer clay is more hard wearing for that. I presume it's not something I've ever used, so I'm not going to pretend to be an expert and tell you all about the properties of it. But as far as I know, that is probably, you're not going to have the same durability with this. I mean, it's great. Once this stuff is dry, you could literally take a paper flower that you've made, screw it in a ball, and it will bounce back and be absolutely fine. So it's got its place, and as I said, for me, I love it for mixed media and things like that because of that. you know, because of what I'm saying, that it is just paper. So basically what I'm doing here is I am just covering the tin foil with this paper clay. So I'm going to do the rest of that one fast forward. Okay, so that's mostly covered now. I have this texture sheet which is like a wood grain. Now, although this isn't particularly wood, it's more vine looking, I'm thinking that maybe if I just sort of press that in a little bit, we will get a bit of a texture, which I think would be quite nice. So it's not really going to be perfect, but it's just will give it a bit more texture, because as I said, I was kind of wanting it to look sort of viney, so I think hopefully we will get it with that. And then once we colour that up, that'll make a lot more sense. Now the other thing I've got is this texture plate here. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but it's kind of like a stone wall effect. So I'm just going to take a little bit and roll it on, and it should give us a little bit. Oh, I've obviously been using some green with that. That's okay. Actually, I'm wanting to do some green a bit later, so I will I'll just move that over there. That'll be fine. Right. And I'm thinking that I might just sort of pop some, don't know if that's going to look daft. Doesn't seem to be doing anything too much. Yeah, maybe there, maybe at the side there. Oops, just, yeah, I was thinking, but maybe if I take some of these smaller bits, I think I chose a bit that was quite wide. Take some of the smaller bricks, so it actually looks more like bricks. This is still quite sticky. The other one had worked for a little while, so sometimes it just needs a bit of fresh air, so it's slightly less sticky, either that or a bit of corn flour. I'm just thinking that if I build up, you don't tend to need to glue too much for this, it'll just naturally sort of stick on its own. Thinking that if I just, oops, I might be able to have a few sort of brick effect coming in. Like so. Yeah, that's kind of working. Okay, and then if I maybe have a little bit just at the bottom there and a bit at the top. Okay, so I finished putting the brick effect there. I've got it down the sides and also on the back, so it looks a bit dodgy at the minute, but once that's dried and we start painting it all up, it'll look a lot better. So that's that. Now, the other great thing about paper clay is that you can colour tint it. So that's one of the things that I really like to do, and you can do it quite easily with basically anything, any colouring product. So if you've got pigment and inks or powders, you can use those. I tend to use my Distress inks quite a lot. Liquid watercolours. The only thing is when you add stuff like that, it will make the clay a bit wetter, so you have to sort of wait a little while. Now I've put in 2 tones in there just to try and get a nice bright green, and then you just literally keep working it until you get a colour that you like. Now that's just a bit too, because I'm thinking that I want to do this fern, so I just need to darken that up a little bit. So yeah, anything you've got that colours anything, that will work. So I like to do that. So what I'll do is I'll just mix this up, and then I am going to use some moulds to do this, because there's 2 things. I have a few moulds, and that's a really nice and easy way to get a nice embellishment. The other thing that's quite good is if you split it like so, oops, and then keep adding a colour to one of the bits, then when you put it together you'll have like variants of colour. So I'll see if I can get this quite dark, I'll add a bit more blue. This kind of works if you're okay with, if you want it like a really deep colour, you're probably best just letting it dry naturally in white and painting it. But this sort of works if you're not too bothered, if you're quite happy with pastel colours. So, and literally you just keep rubbing it until the colour is right through. So that's me done 2 shades of few more colours, and I'm just going to put these in moulds. As I said, you can pop a little bit of cornflour in your moulds first if you want. I would probably do that, but my cornflour is downstairs and I can't be bothered going down. So moulds are probably the easiest way to use paper clay. You can get them, these are Katie Sue Designs, I like those ones. I have some Martha Stewart ones, but I have also just used, I think I was in the middle of saying this and then it interrupted myself. My daughter absolutely loves her Play-Doh, especially when she was little. She doesn't do as much now, but it's amazing how many little shapes they have hidden away on the various toys that they've got. So if you've got a child with Play-Doh, check out their the little toys and things that they have, because honestly they have some great little shapes, and some of my best shapes that I use are from my daughter's Play-Doh sets. So if you happen to have them, they work great. Same with texture plates and things as well. I mean, if you have the texture plates, then fabulous, but you know, stick it in a bit of burlap or a bit of anything with a texture, it'll pick it up. So what I tend to do is kind of fill it, then you take away the extra, because there's no point wasting your clay, and then sort of neaten it up like so. Those ones I've done a solid colour. What you could do, as I said before, if you wanted, you could put, actually I might do that with one of these flowers as well, let's take this out, is you could put a little bit of the dark green in there and then a little bit of the paler green, and you will get sort of more of a variegated effect. Oops. So my clay's still just a little bit sticky, and that's because I have put lots of ink in it to get the colour, but that's okay, you can make it work. So let's do the same. The other thing as well, if you want, is I could get a, let's see if we can do this, a tiny bit of yellow that I've mixed, okay, probably smaller than that, okay, and then pop that into the yellow part, the centre part of the flower there. Okay, and then what I could do is maybe, these have both been mixed with the Ripe Persimmons. I've just added a bit of mustard from the Distress Ink, I've just added a bit of mustard seed for that. So I could then maybe take a little bit of this and squish that into the mould, and then this way we're just making our moulds go a little bit further, and then some of the darker stuff. And I don't mind that colour gets mixed up, because you just end up with new colours. Okay, so we've got some solid colours there and then some variegated ones there, and then all you do then is you just pop them out, she says. So you just need to pop them out like so, and we've got a little variegated leaf there. And then the other thing as well is sometimes what I will do is, rather than leave it to dry flat, is just shape it a little, and it means it'll dry with a bit more interest. So if you want to, you can just sort of shape it like so. So then I'll pop these ones out. So I've got lots of moulds, and I'll probably just keep going, but as I said, you don't need to see me make 1,000 little bits of moulds. So what I'll do is I'll keep making these, and what I will show you is I will do a freeform fantasy flower. I'll let you see that. So that's just a solid coloured one there. This is the one where I have sort of mixed it up a little bit. We're not seeing much of the darker, so maybe next time what I would do, I might try that again actually, and see if we can get that to look a little bit better. So if we put a little bit of yellow in the centre, we've kind of got it, but we've not got the set. We can't see the second dark colour. But if we don't like how it's turned out, we can just literally do that. It's fine, we've not wasted anything. In fact, now what we've done is we've created a new colour. So it's all good. So what I think I might do is put a slightly smaller amount. I think I was a bit too heavy-handed with the... Let's put that in. Okay, and then we'll put the brighter colour in on top. I can just experiment, have a play. Okay. Now if we pull it out, see that one there, we've got a bit more variety. Technique that I forgot to mention was you can actually, I think I did mention it, but it's quite pretty. I've taken like a tiny bit of the Luscious pigment powder here. I've just got this in, this is the porcelain, so it's the white one. I'm just dusting that in, so that would work similar to the cornflower. I've gone quite heavy there. Okay, and then I've also got this one here, which is lawn, which I thought would be quite nice for the leaves. So you can sort of dust some pigments in. Oops, quite a lot there. That's fine. Okay, it just means that one will have a lot more pigment. So actually, because I've gone quite heavy-handed in that, I'll put a little bit of green, so I'll put that and a little bit of yellow in there. And then I quite like making variegated, so it doesn't matter that I've mixed it up there. I'll just stick that in there. Because in nature things aren't all the same colour. Maybe not pink in a leaf, but it's right at the back there, so we're alright. Oops. So put that back in like so. Okay. The ones that had the pigment powder put in first. So again, I'm just going to pop those out, but this time they've got a gorgeous, I don't know if I can put it next to it, you maybe see. You'll see it more on this one because this is the one that went quite heavy-handed. It's got a gorgeous sheen to it, so that's another way of being able to create a slightly different effect. And instead I've done, ooh, got my hair in there, that's not quite such a pretty look. So again, it's another way of making it slightly different, and then the same with the flowers. Those have got, again, that tiny bit of sheen just by putting a little bit of pigment powder in first. So as I said, anything that you can use with paper, you can use with this clay, which is why it's fantastic. Okay, so here are a few freeform flowers that I have made in the past with paper clay. I mentioned before that this stuff, that you can screw it up in your hands and it'll just bounce back. So that's, although they look really delicate, they're actually really sturdy when they're dry. So these are the ones I've made in the past. As I said, quite often my daughter would sit and play with Play-Doh or play with paper clay, and I just sit and fiddle away with these. And this is absolutely my favourite thing to do with paper clay, is just to freeform it. Now, I attended a class with Catherine Sturrock. She now demonstrates on Hochanda. She's got arranged sugar buttons. So one of the craft, the big craft events that they did, I've only ever been to one in my life, in Glasgow, and she was there, and I did one of her workshops. And this is what we did. We made fantasy flowers. So thanks to Catherine and her wonderful inspiration and patience in teaching us, this is where I kind of learned to do this. Now, I don't try and make realistic flowers. Anyone that knows me knows I don't do realism very well. So what she got you to do is, like, you'd mix a bit. So I've mixed a bit of pink there, and now I'm going to take half of this white, half of the pink, and I'm going to mix that in together. And so what we're going to end up is with petals that are different colours. So yeah, I'm not claiming to be particularly clever at this. This is not my first and foremost form of craft. So I play, but I am no expert, but I enjoy playing. Okay, then you take half of this one that you've made, and mix it with some white. So then you end up with 3 tones or 3 shades of the same colour. So I am going to do that with a few more colours, and then we can build some fantasy flowers together. And actually that's not quite as pale as I want, so I'm going to do it again. So you can just do this as much as you want. You can keep going and doing this until you get the shades that you want, but that just wasn't quite pastel enough for me, so I'll just add more white. And then to preserve it, you can just keep it in an airtight container with a damp, like if you get a damp paper towel and leave it in an airtight container, it will last a little while. So if you don't use it all in one sitting, it's not the end of the world. Okay, so I'm going to put you on fast forward while I make some more colours. Okay, so I do have a Sugarcraft roller. I very briefly did Sugarcrafts, but I've also just as easily done this with my daughter's Play-Doh roller as well. So anything you have that can roll. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to make one similar to this one here. Okay, I mean, you can, if you want to go on YouTube, I'm sure there's some amazing, I know you're on YouTube if you're watching this, but if you want to check out, I'm sure there's some amazing people that do really realistic flowers and all that sort of stuff, and I think they're amazing. I tend to live in a bit of a fantasy world in my head, if you all know, and if you know my images, yeah, they're not quite normal, so I just like making it up as I go along. So I'm going to do, what I've done there is I've just rolled it ever so slightly and I've created a cone shape. And then what I'm going to do is, now the centre of your flower is where it'll be darkest. Although to be honest, I've done that one going out light to dark, so it's kind of up to you. Now this was a technique that Catherine did with us on that workshop. So basically you grab a piece of your paper clay. I think I've shown you the packaging. The stuff I am using is Hearty Soft, this one. I love it. It's quite cheap. I think this costs me about £7 for this, but honestly it lasts forever. And if you could see what my daughter does with it and how much she wastes it, and it still lasts forever. So it's pretty good. So what Catherine showed us to do was just to roll a bit out, and then we kind of cut it in half like this and created a straight edge like so. Okay, and then just snipped into it, so I'm going to do that side, just snipped into it as finely as we possibly can. Now honestly, if you try too hard, that's kind of when it all looks, if you're not too bothered and it's not perfect as you're doing this, that's probably going to look better once you're finished. Those that look perfect just don't look completely natural. So we're just creating lots of little snip lines into this. So again, this is paper clay, so you're going to be absolutely fine with your scissors. You're not going to wreck them in any way. That's going to work with it absolutely fine. And so we're just going to do that. Now I'm losing control of that bit, so I'm just tearing that off. Then what we do is we grab that, and I've gone for a contrasting colour, and we just start rolling that round like so. Oops. Now a few that's a bit chunky for me, but that's fine. We can just go in and snip it while it's there. Sometimes I go into little angles as well, so it's not got that sort of hard edge. So that's looking, see, that's pulled a bit off there, but that's fine. It's looking a bit dodgy at the minute. we'll just kind of keep going with that. So again, I'll pop that on fast forward, and when I've got something new to show you, I'll let you know. Okay, so I've taken some of the next pink down that I made, and I am just going to roll that out. Now, I have discovered that this is still, just because I've added all the ink into it and I've not waited particularly long before starting to play with it, it's still just a little bit sticky. I'll find as I go along making the flowers, they kind of hit a bit of a prime time. So you tend to find like about halfway through, it's about right. It's a bit too sticky before that, and then it's a bit too dry. Now again, I don't have one of the professional mats, but this is my We Are Memory Keepers piercing mat, and this is what I have used for years, and it's been absolutely fine. I've also sort of lost the shaping tool that I like. Try this. So we're just going to kind of squish the edges down a little bit. This just makes them look, gives them a bit more detail, and makes them a bit finer at the end, which makes your petal look a lot more realistic. It creates a bit of give into the flower, but this is kind of what makes it look real. Now your posh mats have a little hole in them so that you can stick your flower in. I keep actually thinking of putting one through with my crocodile or something, but I've not actually got round to it. I'm just going to shove a bit of a hole in there now, pierce a bit of a hole in that, and then I take my little centre that I've made and just pop that round, and we just keep doing that. So that's looking okay. I'm going to go for the same pink again, and maybe cut a slightly bigger bit, but again I'm going to pop you on fast forward. So that's those flowers finished. That's the one there that I did the snipping with. It's not turned out to be my favourite flower, but I do quite like this one. And as you can see, I was just doing that with all the bits of leftovers of clay. So I'm just going to finish playing with my leftover clay, and then we'll get back to painting the house. Okay, so now I'm back with my house that's dried, and I have my Pinty Plus spray gesso. I love this. I'm trying to do that away from the microphone. I love this gesso. Best investment ever. Because when you're doing tricky things like this, sometimes it's the gesso or priming it that takes forever. But this stuff is so easy. You don't really need to prime paper or clay, but because I've got the two different surfaces and I've got the MDF there as well, I'm going to go for it now. Obviously you should do this in a well ventilated area. I'm not. I'm in the loft. So I'm going to try and do it as quickly as possible, and then I will run down and get myself a cup of tea and give myself some space to breathe. But look at the coverage that gives. It's just incredible. So I'm just going to, and as I said, this is my go-to when I have tricky things to do. It gives such an even coverage. Okay. probably a bit brave attempting this all in one. But yeah, it saves doing coat upon coat with the brush, and then I always find it goes a bit streaky, whereas this just tends to do a really perfect job. Now, I'm not overly worried about those bits there, because to be honest, I'm going to be covering those anyway. So I'm just going to give this back a bit of a cover, because we've got a few gaps from where the paper clay didn't quite catch it, but as I said, because I knew I was going to be gessoing it, I didn't bother overly. Right. So I've just got the little sides to do, but I'm going to have to do that when the rest of it is dry. Now I'm going to come back once I have got some air. Okay, so it's time to do some painting. So I've put out some heavy gesso and I've got some acrylic paints. I've decided to go with acrylic. So these are Pebeo, this one is Ivory. So I'm going to try and do my stones first, and then I think I'm going to try and do this bit a bit of a lime green. It's funny, I've just put a sneak peek up on my social media, and Dawn's replied to it, and her video's already uploaded, which I knew it would be. And then she says to me that she thought I'd be behind as well, so I love it that we have such similar tastes and things in here. We're so different. But hopefully this should still be up on time. It should be ready by 4 o'clock tomorrow. I've also got children in the house, which I don't normally record, but my daughter's got one of her friends over, and actually those two play together so nicely that they're quiet as anything, so it's all going fine. So I'm hoping, I'm probably going to have to, oops, there's a bit more blue, wasn't actually wanting blue too much. The reason I've put the blue in is, when I was at school, way back when, I'm going to go for a stony colour at the minute, and I'm just kind of going to make this up as I go along really. And I'm just brushing it onto the stony sections of the house. And then I'll probably do the base with this as well, even though it's not completely stony. And I'm just going to build up gradually, to be honest. Yeah, when I was at school, and I took art at school, many moons ago, our art teacher would not let us use black. And when we had any art classes and things like that, he would ban us from using black, and everybody would argue and need to say that black is not a colour. Black is not a colour, so we could not use black. Obviously it's a tone. And it was funny because I actually did end up, because everyone was kind of going, what, so you telling me that's not black? And he's going, no, it's this, and you're telling me that's not black. So I actually won the argument. So I was saying, that paint in the pan that's black, that's not black. And he's like, well, no. And I said, well, if it's not black, then why can't we use it? But he still didn't let us use it. But he is right. He was right. You just don't get a nice tonal. I don't know, the black's just not the same. It doesn't look the same if you just use black from if I'm mixing a grey, it's not going to be a nice grey. So I'm hoping to get my greys from just adding that touch of blue there. So that's me just put a coat on there. What I will be doing is I will be gradually darkening the shadow areas, so the bit under there and then the bits between the bricks there, and I will be doing a similar effect with this bit here, but this is going to take me forever, so I'm actually just going to put this on fast forward. If there's any questions, then feel free to pop them in the comments below, and I can always do like a shortened video covering any questions that you might have. Okay, so I'm just going to pop you on fast forward now. Okay, so that's my house all painted, and I also painted the little mushroom too, and I've used the super thick gesso and just actually left that quite bumpy on that because I thought it would add a bit more texture. So this is my house so far. I'm not sure that I'd probably fiddle more if I had more time, to be honest, but you know, I'm just going to go with it for just now. Now I want to give it a bit of a thatched roof, and I'm going to use this, I'll put this away for just now, and possibly some of these bits that I hacked off at the start. So we will just have a little see how we get on with that. So I am going to need some glue. Let me see, I have got some, this is the Dina Wakley thick gel, so we'll see how we go on with that. The trouble is this has drying time and I don't have a huge amount of time, but we will see how we get on. So I'm just going to dab that all over the roof. It's also why I didn't worry too much about the bricks and things because they're not going to be seen overly. So I'm just going to dab this down. So this idea works in my head, but you know, it could all fall apart right now. I'm just going to pull this out and gradually stick some bits on. Yeah, I'm thinking that certain bits like that might be quite nice. Might just add a bit of texture. So maybe stick some of those on, and maybe stick some of the sorry, not sure if you can see that. I'm just sticking some bits and pieces there. And once I've done that, I'll then go over it with a bit more of the medium on top, just to make sure it's really stuck, and also so that I can stick some more of this stringy stuff on. So that's my plan now, and again, because I don't want this video to be like 10 hours long, I'm just going to do the rest of that in class. So things have sort of dried off a little bit, and this is how it's looking. So I'm quite pleased so far, and now we're going to decorate it up. I have found my little wicker right next to my desk, down here in a bag. That's where I'd put it. So yeah, delighted because I was wanting these. So it's quite difficult. Discovered this is actually quite difficult to film. What I'm wanting to do is just to have a little bit just sort of dangling there. So I'm going to try and wrap this round the vine so that we have, oops, we have a little bit of a feature, oops, of that dangling down. I think that would be quite cute. So I'm hoping, oops, that we can put that on like so. So that's looking like that. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that round like so. Right, now I'm going to be, because I'm quite aware of the fact, there we go, so we've got that sort of dangling down like that, and then the rest I was going to turn into trees. So what I'm going to try and do is create a bit of a step here, and I will do that with the sticks. So I'm just going to try and chop some, I'll pop this to the side, chop some of these sticks up. I'm not going to do that with pincers though, am I? Right. I'm going to try and chop some of these, oops, to about that sort of length. And we'll try and layer them up so that we've got some little steps. Okay. The big one would be good, but I'm not sure if I can break that in the right place. Could try. Okay, this is proving quite difficult to film. Okay, so I've managed to get some sticks. I've got a little shorter one here, so I'm going to again grab some of my pin flare. I possibly should have done this earlier, but I didn't think of it. So I've got one that I'm going to put in just there, and then I have a bigger one. Oops. A bigger one. That I am going to put just... It's kind of going over the door a bit now. Something like that. Maybe if I just move that along a little bit. Okay, so something like that. And then I am going to get my other twigs and just make a sort of a little path like so. Then I have paper flowers that I'm going to sort of decorate and pop like around like that. I've got some of these that I'm planning on sort of building up, and then these little flowers that I've done like that. I'm hoping to sort of put on the actual house itself like so. So I'll be putting some of those round about like that, and then these here I'm going to be standing some up, not quite as tall as that, but I'll be standing some up a bit like the pine cones to make sort of more trees and flowers. And then I've got my grass stuff here, and what I will do is I'll just probably paint some gel medium in all the gaps once I've done everything that I've just described, and I will yeah, I'll just do that now. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and do that because it's quite difficult to sort of film it so that you're actually seeing anything interesting. I don't have time to sort of try and reset the camera. I'd have to put it somewhere else in the house. So I'm just going to do that, and then I'll show you around the finished design. Okay, so that is me all done. Eek. I love how it's turned out. I am so excited with it. It's still drying, so I'll maybe take some decent photos of it in the morning. But there you go, that is my fairy garden. I cannot wait to see what Dawn's done and see just how different it will be to this. What I will do is in the morning when this is dry is try and take some decent photographs of it. I will have them on my social media, my Facebook and my Instagram, so please do check down below for the links, and of course please do go and visit Dawn because I know she's absolutely going to blow you away with this challenge, because as I've said, she is the queen when it comes to using a clay, so she will have absolutely rocked this. But I am quite delighted with how that turned out. So thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, please do consider liking and subscribing, and I will be back again very soon. Okay, take care then, and goodbye.